Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. Welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And this is somebody I've known for 14 years. And I've certainly talked a lot of movies with him. Vinnie from the Movie Club, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And we're getting into round five here, folks. So Vinny has been on here quite a few times. And let's jump right in. We're going to be talking a little bit about our preferences here. But Vinny, what is your preferred environment for watching a movie?
Well, I've always loved going to a theater to see a movie. Admittedly, over the past couple years, in terms of like the smaller movies, I've been a little more lenient because mainly with indie movies, like a lot of times you gotta like seek them out somewhere, and then you have to like find time to like make the drive to go over and see them, and like a lot of
Mhm.
times like there may be only like unless it's in like an art house theater, like it'll come to a mainstream theater for like maybe a week or two before it's pushed out to make room for the next like blockbuster that takes up five or six screens. So
Yep.
that's been how it is with indie movies lately. But obviously if I have time and I'm able to, I'll make the drive to go see it. But yeah, then in terms of like bigger blockbusters, obviously I'll try and go for like the big screen experience for that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It I put a lot of work into coordinating when I go see movies, seeing as I try to see as much as I can. But no, when you have like a smaller film and if you're not lucky enough to have a 24 screen like AMC or something that might show some of those smaller films, yeah, you're gonna have to put in the work to drive to an indie theater and stuff like that. But
Well,
yeah,
I do have I have it my AMC is 21 screens, but like like I've said often, they'll get one of those indie movies for like a week or two, and if you're not able to get there within that window to see it, then you're out of luck.
and then Beetlejuice shows up and takes up like I was looking for this weekend at some showtimes, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them have like 15 showtimes in a day because that's gonna make a lot of money. But the closest AMC to my house is an 8 screen theater, so like there's no small films there. And basically, it's like it's convenient if it's like a bigger thing, and I could go there, and it takes me 14 minutes. But
Your
yeah,
AMC only has eight screens.
the closest one to my house, Marlton 8, has
Huh.
8 screens.
No,
And
no,
then,
that's weird because I feel like all the AMCs I know of have at least like a dozen screens.
so there's probably like 8 AMCs within a 30-minute radius of my house, which I feel very lucky to be able to say that. Like 30, 40 minutes, and it ranges from an 8, 10, 12, 16, and a 24. So nice wide range different sizes for sure. But nowadays it's a lot of work to try to find like smaller films out there. And and you're right, they disappear after like a week. If you didn't get them that week, well, screw you, wait for VOD or streaming. Now, you obviously mentioned you'd prefer to watch it in a theater. So, what are your personal standards for watching movies in a theater? What's your theater etiquette?
Theater etiquette, well, as I would hopefully expect of most people, like I prefer a quiet audience, but like I I am okay with people being audible at like the right moment. It's like I remember junior year I went to like my first ever midnight opening, and it was for Paranormal Activity 3, and it was a packed theater, and it was at the AMC in Hamilton
Aw.
that you know very well. Um and I like it was a very good experience, like because like even though it was a packed theater, like people were quiet at the right moments, like you could feel that tension of like everyone waiting for something to happen, and then of course when something did happen, you would have like everyone like gasp or scream, and like it was like for a horror movie opening night, it was surprisingly and thankfully it was a surprisingly respectful audience, and I really appreciated that. And in terms of in terms of indie movies, like I don't mind it being in like a I don't mind it being in in like any sort of format. Like it's not like indie movies are in like the big like formats anyway, but like with an indie movie, I can see it on like like in like a smaller auditorium, a bigger auditorium. Like I'm fine with either or. Blockbusters, obviously, I prefer the bigger format. I love I love going to my local Regal. Like I actually prefer it to my AMC because my AMC is in like this huge ugly mall that I hate walking through. But my Regal Cinema, their premium format is RPX, and I love utilizing
Yeah.
that whenever a big movie opens there. And I used to like IMAX, but I feel like ever since AMC absorbed it, I don't like how I feel like it's much louder that it's much louder than it used to be. I remember the only time I ever tried it was when I went to see Dunkirk, and I was with my brother and my dad, and I think we might have left a half hour into it just because of how blisteringly loud it was. And then I went back and saw it in a regular theater like a week later, and it was like a fine volume, a reasonable volume. So I don't like IMAX anymore. So that's that's how I prefer my movies these days.
My closest theater to my house is a Regal, and I'd probably go there more if I had their plan. But I have AMC A-list, so like I prefer to go to AMC. But for the record, Regals are like 99.9% of the time nicer than AMC's are. Because Regal Cinemas are really nice theaters. The I went to most recently, I think it was I saw the Muppet movie for the TCM Classics at the local Moorestown Regal that I go to. And it's just such a nice theater. But no, whether it's RPX or Prime or IMAX or whatever the hell Cinemarks is. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's definitely like being able to see certain films like that on that extra special format. Like there's nothing else like watching Dune Part 2 on the IMAX screen at Lincoln Square AMC. And those worms were so humongous, Vinny. They were humongous.
But
So
I mean, I just don't understand how people can sit through IMAX the way it is today when it like makes your ears bleed. I don't know how people sit through it all.
I guess it depends on how sensitive your ears are, but you never thought you would need to bring earplugs for a movie, right? It's
Oh God.
like, well, we're not going to see a concert today, but Dune's on. Put my earplugs in.
Get those earmuffs.
Oh no, Hans Zimmer's in the house today. Put them in. Now, I mean, what's a film that will always get an emotional reaction out of you?
Well, I could definitely gush for like an hour about this movie, or even more than that. So definitely one of those movies is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I saw it twice in theaters because I just like I loved it. Um Watching that movie, you definitely feel like you experience a person's lifetime. Um Everything about that movie, it's just so gorgeous. Like just the acting, the direction, the look of the movie in terms of camera work and production design. Of course, Alexandra Desplat's score is just absolutely gorgeous. Um, One thing I really like about the movie is how like no matter who Benjamin meets, you always feel like the story, it's so good at making you feel the connection that he makes to each person that he makes to each person that he meets in his life. And like like whether the person leaves his life either through death or they just have to walk away or they just walk away and move on to something else like due to other circumstances. Like you really do feel the impact that such such a connection has on him, like especially the sequence of the movie where yeah, he's in Russia and he's staying in the hotel and he meets Tilda Swinton's character, and she's there with her husband, but she and Benjamin, they meet for a few nights late into the night. They'll sit in like the eating area and just like they'll just talk and connect, and just the way that relationship ends when he opens his hotel room the next day, and he sees the note there from Tilda Swinton's character, and all it says is, I think all it says is, "It's nice to have met you." Like, even though that doesn't seem like anything, like it just feels like I don't know if this makes sense, but like it feels big and meaningful, just in how simple of a gesture that is. Like you feel that the two of them are gonna remember each other, and the movie, it's just filled with like those beautiful bittersweet moments of people coming in and out of your lives, and of people coming in and out of your life, and just having certain impacts on you, whether they be big or small, and and this really does seem like a movie that understands life, and like what it means to have like those special people occupy it.
It's definitely a film that I feel like is overhated at this point, and I feel like it's really underappreciated because it's not Fight Club, it's not Seven, and it was such
Well,
a
yeah, because
very different experience.
like compared to what David Fincher made prior to that, yeah, like this is like a very different movie that he made, but in my opinion, he absolutely nailed it. I think that might have been my favorite movie of 2008.
There's a lot of humanity in it. And to be honest, you can't always say that about David Fincher's movies. That usually it's the darkness in people that shines in his films. And I feel like Benjamin Button, as you were alluding to, is it's the little things in life, the human connections that can mean so much. Now, Vinny, my next question is a bit of a two-parter. So, what is a film series that has stopped that you wish that would continue?
So that would definitely have to be the 21 Jump Street series. I remember, like, I mean, it's really remarkable like what both those movies were able to accomplish in terms of comedy, because I remember when I saw the trailer for the first one, I was like, this is gonna be awful. This is just this is just like a dumb opportunity to like cash in on people's nostalgia, and it just looked like a it just looked like a very bad comedy. but but when those
It's
reviews
not.
came out, like saying how great it was, and like you saw the movie, and you thought to yourself, well, they didn't spoil any of the good jokes in the trailer. It was definitely one of the biggest surprises of movies in 2012. And then 2 years later with 22 Jump Street, like it did that rare thing where it actually made it made like a great sequel to a popular comedy. And in the end credit like over the end credits, I remember them showing like all of like these other like Jump Street adventures that Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum could possibly have. And obviously, like several of them like seemed, way too silly to be like their own movies. But there were like, if I remember, because I haven't
School.
seen the movie, I haven't seen the movie in like since I saw it in theaters 10 years ago. Wow. Like if I remember correctly, there were like a few ideas like in the end credit sequence that were like, I would like to see them do a movie about this. Like Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, they had such great comedic chemistry in both of those movies, it's just a shame that that we never got a third one. Like I know they were talking of like a potential crossover with that and Men in Black. I think that would have been like a little too much. Like I probably would I definitely would have been more open to like a third 21 Jump Street than I would have been to a 21 Jump Street Men in Black crossover.
So, Vinny, I distinctly remember when those emails leaked and that idea leaked, and I'm like, this is the dumbest idea ever. 10 years later, Vinny, it would have, it's genius. I think that would have been the funniest thing if they actually pulled the trigger on that. And I wish they did instead of just letting the 21 Street, the Jump Street franchise just die. Like, honestly, if we got MIB 23rd Jump Street, I think that would have been hilarious. But no, this is a series that needed to keep going. Like, how would you drop the ball on that? They were both humongous hits. They're both hilarious. Lord Miller, great. And the greatest end credits in the history of cinema. I will argue with anybody because it's wild. The whole segment where Jonah Hill gets replaced by Seth Rogen and then they try to ignore that as it just keeps going. Oh man. Like
Phil Lord and Christopher Miller they had a great 2014 because they had 22 Jump Street and the Lego Movie, which was another like huge
yeah,
surprise of how good it turned out to be.
it, it all started for them with Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs, which should not have been anything. But apparently it's legitimately a funny, enjoyable movie. Now I feel like they're mostly just doing like producing and stuff like that. Obviously, they're involved with the Spider-Verse films, not directly, but and we could have got their solo, but we didn't. We got nice, safe, watchable solo from Ron Howard. That's what
I
we
still
got.
I still haven't seen it. I don't really care to.
I feel like most people are like, this was terrible. It was not a bad movie. It was just a safe, very expected kind of movie. And that's what they wanted. They got rid of Lord and Miller, who were a risk. And they're like, who can we get to make this nice and safe? Oh, it's Ron Howard. Which is interesting because his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, has done more interesting things with Star Wars than he did. Because I really enjoy her Mandalorian episodes. But we're not getting off too that much off track with that. But the opposite end of this, so Vinny, what's that series that just has to die?
So despite the last installment getting getting surprisingly good reviews, I think they have to stop the Saw series. Like I've seen one through four. The first one obviously a really good horror movie, especially with that twist. The second one, the second one wasn't bad at all because especially with that double twist that it had, it was a a surprisingly good sequel. The third one, the third one was okay, didn't love it. The fourth one was when, obviously after Jigsaw dies at the end of the third one, the fourth one is when they start like bringing him back for like flashbacks and like the fourth one, it was going like back and forth in time, and like I was like, you know what? If this is what the other installments are gonna be like, I don't care about moving forward. And then, like I said, with the one that came out last year, like yeah, I know it got good reviews, but I don't know. I might be wrong, but I just don't care. I just don't care to see it because I feel like it's just them try I feel like it's them just like trying to right a wrong and killing off Jigsaw so early in the series, and like I feel like they've gone back to the well too many times, and I'm not gonna be fooled by it. Like I think with me, the first two Saw movies are fun. they're fun horror movies, but then after that, it gets pointless, in my opinion.
I have seen the first one and didn't like it. I'm just like, this really isn't my thing, to be honest.
You didn't like it, really? Well, I mean, I know you're not, I know you're not like a horror guy, but I know you do see horror movies. Like,
Yes. I and spoiler alert, I didn't like Terrifier 2 either. It's the kind of thing where it's like
oh, it's,
my sense.
I'll never see the Terrifier movies. Like, I've heard enough about them that I'm like, don't, I don't mind blood and gore, but I have my limits.
And salt's within those limits for me. It's just outside of those limits for me. It's just I don't like the idea of like the whole entire point of this is just to watch people get mutilated and tortured in the most disgusting ways and just like it's entertaining to me. Which it's funny because I've literally only seen the first one, Spiral, and the new one. So and every other one I have not watched. Spiral, I'm like, okay, this seems like it's disconnected enough where I'm like, I could go in. And I just feel like it's just diminishing returns, especially after a while. Like, how many ways can you possibly come up with to mutilate people?
Mhm.
And it's still hit that thing. And that's the tricky thing about horror sequels. It's like how much can you do the same thing over and over and over again before this is just not that interesting anymore? So, but they're gonna keep going because they make money. So
Yeah, because I
sorry
think
to break it to you, Vinny.
Yeah, because I actually think that they had planned for Saw 11 to come out this month, but then it got pushed back because of the writers' strike. So
Yeah,
now they're planning it for next year.
yeah. Now, Vinny, what's an historical event you feel like should get a film adaptation?
So as a movie fan, I would love to see the opening of the opening weekend of Jaws getting a film adaptation because it's so fascinating with how that movie pretty much created the notion of like a summer blockbuster. Like people were coming out in droves to see it. Like I love watching news footage of people lining up for hours to see these movies. I've also seen footage of people lining up in in like in like the early hours of the morning to see The Exorcist. But like just like those opening weekends of like decades past, like it's just so fascinating because when you think of of how we watch movies, of how people go and see movies now, they buy their tickets online, they reserve their seats, they go, they watch their movie. Like
It's not the same.
I feel like back then movies were just so much more of like a cultural event. You had slower like even for like those big movies, you had like slower rollouts to like gain word of mouth. Like people wanted to see those movies because they wanted to be able to talk about those movies. And like I would just love to see a movie about how Jaws created the summer blockbuster, how like summer became like the big season to see movies, and I just think it would be a really cool thing to see play out like as a movie.
I love that idea. And I just watched a screener over the weekend of the 4:30 movie, Kevin Smith's new movie, which is basically about a kid who asks the girl he likes out to go see a movie at 4:30 and then goes to the theater early to see some other movies with his pals. And I'm just imagining somebody like Kevin Smith. It's like it's finally rolling out. Jaws is debuting at the Jersey Shore and it's opening weekend and having something like that, that would be a lot of fun. I think obviously, and like even honestly, Spielberg could do a fun, like earnest kind of version of that. Obviously, the Kevin Smith movie would have a little bit of some fun raunchiness to it, but still, can be earnest. But no, that's a fun idea. I think I would enjoy that movie. It would also bring back a time where it was an event to go to a movie. It never feels like an event to go to a movie anymore. It just feels like you're going, you watch, like you said, watch a movie. I could get my tickets weeks in advance on my phone. I don't have to stand in line and rush in and try to get a seat. What times, Vinny?
We were born in the wrong era, I think.
My mutton chops would agree. Uh, biggest shame, mutton chops and all. Waiting there, 1975, waiting for Jaws. Now, thinking about, so we talked about a historical event. Person, person do you think deserves to have a biopic made about them?
So so my answer is coming as an avid reader. I would I would love to see a biopic about Hans Christian Andersen get made because I feel like when it comes to fairy tales, like obviously everyone knows like Grimm's fairy tales. With Hans Christian Andersen, they're like obviously they're like a couple that have like really broken through because obviously Disney's The Little Mermaid was based off of his story. You have you have I think Warner Brothers did an animated version of Thumbelina in the 90s. Um, maybe like a couple others have. Oh, I think I think Frozen was like was like loosely based off
Yes.
of one of his stories, but I would like to see a biopic about him get made because like I said I feel like his stories don't get as much attention as Grimm's fairy tales, and I would like to see a movie about the mind behind like those. I mean, I know like Grimm's fairy tales were like pretty dark, but a lot of his stories were like dark and sad, and like I would just like to see a movie about the mind behind those stories.
I think that would be interesting. And I'm always down for, like, I don't really know much about his life, but I'm always down for seeing films about creators and what was their creative process and how they came up with these kinds of things. So I think that would be interesting for sure. Now, in a world ruled by streaming, Vinny, what is your go-to streaming service? And what kinds of features and content do you desire most out of a streaming service?
So as of now, my preferred streaming service is Max because I feel like I feel like no matter what they always have a great selection of movies, whether they be old or new. They also have a great selection of television shows. Um, yeah, I mean it's really as pure as pure and simple as that. Like as long as you're I mean, I'm sure anybody would agree to this. As long as your service has like a great selection of movies and television shows, both newer ones and older ones. Um, that's all I could ask for in a streaming service. And as of now, that's for the most part that's HBO Max for me, or
And
Max, however you want to say, whatever you want to call it.
they exercised the HBO, Vinny. It's Max. Like, oh, as an overall product, I feel like Max is the best because, like, you have the HBO content alone would make it one of the top streaming services, but that you have Studio Ghibli, BC, Cartoon Network, you have Turner Classic Movies, Criterion, and just so much content. And then you have Warner Brothers, that catalog. Like, that's a lot of stuff. I feel like Max is overall the best bang for your buck. And like obviously like Apple is really impressive with its new content of mostly series. It does have some films come out occasionally, like Wolf's coming out soon, but like it really doesn't have the back catalog to enjoy. And Netflix is just Netflix. Disney Plus, I feel like, is a big nostalgia machine. And also, if you love Star Wars and Marvel, and then you can watch those shows too. But it's mostly like the back catalog. But no, for sure, Max got it. Now, thinking about a little bit of television, what TV series do you wish would be revived for more seasons? So we talked about film series earlier. So what's a television series you want to get revived?
Uh, definitely the Midnight Club. That was on Netflix. I've been going through Mike Flanagan's five Netflix series, and I'm actually I saved Midnight Mass for last. I'm actually almost done with that one. I think I have two episodes left, but
Oh
um.
my.
But but yeah, the Midnight Club, like I like what's funny is that all of Mike Flanagan's other Netflix shows were were meant for one season, except for this. Like he was actually planning on doing a second season, but even though the first season got good reviews, I guess there wasn't as high of a viewership as like his other shows. So Netflix canceled it, and it's frustrating because the first season ends on such a good cliffhanger, but but as you're watching it, well, I mean, when you were watching it back then, you didn't know it was gonna be canceled, but watching it now as someone with knowledge that it's gonna get canceled, just watching it with that cliffhanger, it just made it all the more frustrating because I mean, yeah, like it wasn't like one of my favorite shows from him, but it was definitely entertaining, and I would have liked to have seen a second season of it, but it's just a shame that we're not going to be getting it.
I can't 100% confirm this, but the rumors I heard is they did it out of pettiness. And also they were having a falling out with Mike Flanagan, which is why he jumped ship to Amazon. So I think they canceled it out of spite, which oh Netflix. But no, it's probably my least favorite of his shows, but it's still a Mike Flanagan show. So I guess I wanted to see more of it. Um, but you know what? Sounds like we're gonna get a Dark Tower Saga series over on Apple. So if that was what it costs getting that show canceled for him to jump over to Amazon and make a Dark Tower series, I think it's a pretty good trade-off. But no, that show was a lot of fun. Mike Flanagan is just such a great creator when it comes to horror, and especially like really killing it with his series. If I had to list like my top horror television series, like first all of them would probably be his. So
Even his movies like Doctor Sleep, Gerald's Game,
yes,
Hush, they were all really good, and I'm looking forward to what he does with uh with with the second Exorcist reboot that we're gonna be getting in just a few in like within the span of just a couple of years. But
I
I'm sure I'm sure he'll do good work with it.
I trust Mike Flanagan a lot more than David Gordon Green with that. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Um, I have yet to watch a good Exorcist sequel. The less that's said about Heretic, the better. That movie is trash. Um,
I've only seen the original and the one that came out last year.
I heard decent things about the third one,
I have two. I have two.
so we'll see. But no, the actual direct sequel to The Exorcist, Heretic, was what a movie. What a movie for sure. Now, Vinny, who's an actor you would like to see get a comeback?
Well, it's actually an actor who had a comeback about 15, 16 years ago. And that's Mickey Rourke.
Ah,
I loved his performance in the Wrestler.
yep.
It was just such such like a physically visceral, emotional performance. And it's just one of those it's one of those times where you're watching a movie and you're like, I had no idea this actor had that much power in him, and it's it's a shame. I mean, ever since then, I mean, yeah, he was in the Expendables. He was in Iron Man 2, but
Which
his
they
I mean,
ruined it.
yeah, I mean, like his acting wasn't bad, but just like the character wasn't written that well, and he hasn't really done a lot since then. So like I would love to I would love to see him have another comeback and actually like remain in the public eye.
Oh, Vinny, I've seen the films he's been doing lately. Not great. Um, it's frustrating because apparently his Whiplash was a well-written character, and they cut all of his scenes where they added any depth to him, which is why Mickey Rourke is still pissed at Marvel because like they just gutted that character apparently. But this is going to sound silly, but I'm going to say it. There's four Expendables films. There is one scene I feel like in all four of them combined where there's truly great acting in it. And it's the one scene where Mickey Rourke tells a story about his time back in the war. And that's in the first Expendables movie. And it had no place being in a ridiculous movie like that. I just remember sitting and watching it being like that was great. Like, what? Did he forget what movie he was in? But legitimately, out of four films, there's only one like truly great acting scene, and Mickey Rourke had it. He has that in him, and it's so sad. I would love to see him doing that instead of like not another God movie that he was recently in, where he played the devil. Which what a movie! It's it's sad to see where his career has gone since then. And mostly he just does straight to VOD action thrillers at this point. He's in that territory where there's a lot of actors that I would like to see get saved from that straight to VOD action movie world. But no, that's a good pick. And damn, the wrestler's so good. And I know a lot of people are high on Milk and Sean Penn's performance. I still think Mickey Rourke should have won Best Actor
Well,
that year.
well, I remember that year, like it was a pretty tight race between Rourke and Penn.
Yes, it really came down to the two of them, and Mickey Rourke didn't win, and then went out at WrestleMania and had a big moment in front of a crowd, punched out Chris Jericho. So he got his big moment, I guess. Now, Vinny, my last question for you is: so you met somebody new, and they had to get to know you through watching movies. What three movies would you pick for them to watch?
All right, so the three movies I'm gonna pick, obviously they're like very different from each other because they relate to like three very different like parts of me. So one of them is Drumline because even though that focuses on like a college marching band, like when I was in my high school marching band, and it was definitely like it was a huge part of my high school experience. Pretty much the few people who I still keep in touch with from high school were the ones who got me into marching band, and it was probably like my favorite extracurricular activity that I took part in like during high school. I was part of it. I was part of it for all 4 years. I loved every minute of it. Um, another the next movie that would relate that would have a person get to know me is Dead Poet Society because as I said earlier, I'm an avid reader. Throughout high school and college, I loved my English classes, and with Dead Poet Society, being about an English teacher who instills the love of reading into his students. It was definitely it was definitely a movie that I could connect with, like just because the main character, like me and the main character, we share that love of literature. And the third movie I would pick would probably be Brooklyn, because because with my background, I'm Irish Italian. Brooklyn it deals with it deals with an Irish woman and an Italian man, forming a relationship, trying to work hard in America to build to build good lives for themselves. And my mom and dad, they weren't immigrants, but my mom is Irish, my dad's Italian. They both worked really hard to build a good life for my brother and I. And there was that. And actually, when I saw Brooklyn, I saw it with the three of them. Like, we actually saw it twice in theaters together, because it's just like such, like, it's just like such an emotional story. And all four of us loved it. And yeah, it just connected with the four of us. And yeah, so Drumline, Dead Poet Society, and Brooklyn, those are the three movies that I would probably give someone to get to know me.
Those are some great selections, and knowing you for 14 years, pretty on point. For sure. And oh, I love Brooklyn so much. It's not my parents, it's my grandparents, my mom's parents,
Mhm.
because my grandfather was a son of two Italian immigrants, one from Rome, one from Sicily, and my grandmom was very Irish. And I remember watching Brooklyn for the first time, and just like it just struck something deep, very personal. I love that movie. My wife Jess and I each pick a film to watch for Valentine's Day every year of some kind of romantic um aspects, and she always picks Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And Brooklyn is one of my they go to. My rotation is Princess Bride, Brooklyn, and When Harry Met Sally. It's Jess always loves picking freaking Sarah Marshall. But no, I just love Brooklyn to pieces. And also, Saoirse Ronan's my favorite. So
Yeah,
just,
yeah, just an absolutely great performance from her.
yes, absolutely. Now, those are all my questions. But Vinny, you know how this show goes. What would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
All right, so my question for you is, if you could take your favorite movie and have it be remade by a different director, be they living or dead, who would it be and why?
So, my favorite films are Lord of the Rings. And I feel like the one person that I would trust most to take something of such amazing hot like fantasy and make it work as Hayao Miyazaki. I would love to see it get shifted into anime, and I would love to see what Miyazaki does with Lord of the Rings. I think that would be the coolest, because generally I would not want to see Lord of the Rings redone ever. But if I was going to trust anybody with it, I think if you switched it to animation and Miyazaki did it, I think it would be absolutely incredible. Something really special.
Well, they
But
well they have that anime Lord of the Rings coming out in December.
yes, so well, because I have seen the 70s Hobbit animated movie. I have seen the Lord of the Rings, the one with the rotoscope in it, which is like so creepy. So many moments are so creepy in that. The ring rates are so creepy because they're rotoscoped people. And I haven't watched The Return of the King yet, animated film. But yes, we do have the War of the Rohirrim anime coming out in December, which I am so about. And I really hope that blows up and blows Craven out of the water because what are you even doing existing, Craven the Hunter? Because they come out the same weekend. But no, I would love to see Hayao Miyazaki make Lord of the Rings into an anime. I'm trying to think who I'd actually trust to make it into a live action film. I feel like just aesthetically, and I wish The Hobbit stayed this way before he moved on, was Guillermo del Toro. At least I think it would be interesting. I just don't have a whole lot of trust in filmmakers to make great live action fantasy because the track record for live action fantasy is kind of shit. There's not a whole lot of great, truly great live action fantasy films. Um,
What
but
what well, I mean, well, when you really think about it, like it's really something how how like in the 2000s we got the Harry Potter movies, the Lord of the Rings
yes,
movies, and the Chronicles of Narnia, and and just somehow all three of them ended up working.
it's an interesting point. I don't know if I would pick any of the Harry Potter. Well, I feel like Alfonso Cuarón would make a great film out
Oh,
of
no,
it.
no, I'm not saying one way or the other whether
Well,
those
no, I
directors will be
just
good for.
saying they brought up those great fantasy series, and I'm trying to think. I don't know if I trust any of the other directors of Harry Potter, but you know what would be interesting? Andrew Adamson. But I feel like it would have to be a lot lighter kind of take on it because he's the one who made Shrek and Shrek 2, and then left the Shrek franchise to make Chronicles of Narnia. So, and he left Shrek the Third behind, and that's why it sucked because it didn't have any of the magic of the first two films. I feel like he has a really special spark, and what's really sad is he hasn't made a movie in like 14 years or close to it. So, be interesting. I think that would be an interesting experiment. But generally, Hayao Miyazaki turn it into an anime. It would be great. But that was a great question. It's a really interesting question because I'm definitely like the clutching pearls of like, don't you dare touch Lord of the Rings, which I know Warner Brothers is going to because they're a bunch of whores and can't help themselves because they're doing it to Harry Potter too. I think it's like I feel like Lord of the Ring. You have Rings of Power right now, which they just released the first three episodes of season two. Enjoyed the first episode, loved the second because dwarves, and I hated the third one because all the humans are boring in the show. Um, it's except they had one magical creature at the end of the third episode that was like, okay, maybe I'll give this a star or two, just because of that. Um, but it's that kind of thing where it's just like Warner Brothers is going to be pouring out Lord of the Rings like crazy because they want money, and it's going to happen. Why do we need a Search for Gollum movie? Like for reals?
They're doing
Why?
that.
They are. Andy Serkis is going to direct it and
The s-
star
the
in Gollum.
search the search for Gollum.
It's like 2 pages in the Lord of the Rings books. It's it's like before the Fellowship gets together, and it's like Aragorn chasing after Gollum.
Oh my God.
I'm like, you already made Rings of Power out of appendices. Appendices. I'm like, what are
What
you doing?
they're probably thinking, hey, Harry Potter made three Fantastic Beasts movie out of like 100 page out of 100 page textbook. Let's make one movie based on 2 pages of Lord of the Rings lore.
Well, to be fair, the third Hobbit movie was what, 7 pages combined? Five of them were Smaug attacking Lake Town. And then the whole Battle of the Five Armies was 2 pages because Bilbo gets knocked out. And the book is from Bilbo's perspective. And then it's somebody being like, hey, Bilbo, do you know what? And then this happened. And then this happened. So I wouldn't put it past Warner Brothers to do anything or Amazon Lord of the Rings related. I I I would it'd be so cool to see somebody attempt the Cimmerillion, but I don't know if I trust anybody at this point who has the rights to Lord of the Rings to do so. But anyway, so Miyazaki making anime. But Vinny, thank you as always for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.